There's too many characters in the business.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't really show it on HGTV.
That's right.
This is Men in Labor. I met you through your brother, Tracy Forrest, Winter Park Construction. This is Jeff Forrest. And you've come up. I met you the same exact time that I met Tracy. I mean, he came to school. I don't know if you were in that school that day.
I wasn't in that one. No, no.
All right, so I had no idea who Tracy was. And what happened was I got a phone call, or I don't know, it was 1997.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure if there was email or what it was. But somebody asked me to perform for Winter Park Construction. And it was an odd request. It was something that, again, if you're a comic that's successful, you might not have taken this gig.
Well, listen, Tracy was like, I mean, that was a perfect example of what Tracy would do. He'd come up with these crazy ideas to introduce into, our world. And he did it for the staff, right? I mean, it was so much fun. And I thought it was a perfect example of what Tracy would do through his life, is just come up with these ideas of, let's bring a comic into the company, introduce him as a project engineer, give him background on so many people, and then just let him loose.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And that's how we met. I mean, I didn't pick up on it right away. It took
You didn't know either?
No. He only told Wes.
Wow.
Because Wes had to do a little, kind of coordination of
And he didn't tell me
bodies.
much either. I was in the dark, too, about what was going to happen. He had given me some instructions. Basically, we're going to let you go. Just do your thing. You're going to be brought in as an employee. We're going to make it look real. We're going to requisition moving expenses.
You got orientations.
I couldn't believe
you got the whole thing set up. Yeah.
He set it up as if I was coming in.
The HR department had no idea who you were.
But they knew somebody was coming in.
Someone was coming.
Which is insane.
It's fantastic.
Right? Insane. It was an absolute insane thing. And I had no idea the way it was going to turn out. But I remember the first Jeep ride, because you guys all had the Jeeps.
Oh, yeah.
Was a Wagoneer, or what was it?
Yeah,
Jeep?
we had Jeep Wagoneers.
Everybody had the same color.
Yeah,
Jeep.
The tan and brown, right? We had the tan cars
Same
with
color
the stripes.
shirts.
Yeah,
Right? It was a matching company, very branded.
Very proud of our brand, yeah.
Right. So Gary Vee would be very happy with you guys.
That's right.
And Tracy was a branding guy. I remember that he told me, one of my first conversations with him is, you need to get an El Camino.
That's what he told you.
You do that El Camino joke. I go, it's one joke. I got to buy a car for one joke? He goes,
I'm surprised he didn't find one for you and say, hey, here it is.
Oh, that'd been awesome. And really, he did a lot for me, because that first show, Wes brought me to a site somewhere near Lakeland, I'm going to say.
Okay.
And just let me loose and introduced me as the new, I don't know if it was project
I think you were a project manager. I think that you came in as a project manager.
I came in as a leader, right? A leader. And I remember somebody, I don't know if it was one of you guys, Kevin, or one of these guys who first met me, just did not like me.
Yeah, I mean, you probably heard these stories, but when you first went out, I mean, the phones were ringing back at the office. Like, who the fuck is this guy out here? What is Tracy doing?
Oh my God,
he's absolutely insane.
It was Nextel. I think it was Nextel.
Yeah,
system back then.
the big phones, right? The big bricks.
And the greatest thing is Wes is getting those calls, and I'm in the car with Wes. So I had met one of the guys, and he goes, how did you meet Tracy? I said, we were playing poker. I made up a story about us being in Biloxi. I don't even know if Tracy was a gambler.
Yeah, but Biloxi would make sense.
And I said, he ran out of money. I loaned him $10 real quick, and then all of a sudden he started winning, and then we just became friends. And he's like, what are you doing? I got this job. So then he goes, wow, that's crazy. He goes, and you were wearing a brand new WPC shirt? They were so pissed that I had a brand new shirt. How'd you get a shirt? I go, I got two of them.
But you remember it was with Ron, I think it was, that had been waiting for a car for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And you met with Ron.
I told him I was getting
a
a
car.
car.
You were getting a car. Ron lost it. He couldn't believe it.
That was being
story.
fed to me by your people, saying, Ron wants a car. He's not getting one. Tell him you got a car.
Yeah.
Right? And then I said to them, I go, you guys drug test?
That's right.
And he's like, yeah. I go, is there any way I could delay that like 10 days? That's all I said. And then it started. We went to the next job site. Wes gets a call. Wes is like, they're pissed, right? And by the time I made it to the next site, all those guys knew about me.
Yeah.
They all had,
everybody knew.
They all had
the
an
network
attitude.
was going. Yeah.
I always described it as, and this is what I did later on to get more work like this, because Tracy got me a couple more gigs like that, and some of your peer groups hired me to do more shows.
Well, you remember you did it for our peer group the first time.
Yeah. And I said, this is kind of it turned out to be a team building thing where an infection is brought in.
Yeah.
And the team, the antibodies, are trying to flush it out.
We are going to get rid of this.
And they really did try to make me quit.
Because our culture was so strong, right? And so many people had been fed this idea of how we're taking care of each other. And, this guy comes in and like, he is not one of us.
It's perfect.
But the bbest story, which still holds today, is when you were supposed to meet with Rose, our project administrator, right?
Poor Rose.
And poor Rose. And you call from, like, tell her you're at the mall shopping or something. I can't remember.
No, they call. I'm in my room, and I don't show up on time for work the first day. So the story is I did the field first.
Yeah.
The second day I was going to meet the office. I was supposed to be at the office, I don't know, let's say 8:30, whatever, right? And I'm just sitting there waiting till it's 9 o'clock, and I get a call. Where are you? I said, well, what's going on? You're supposed to be here. I go, where? It's my daughter's birthday. I'm supposed to go get a gift. I have to go to the mall before I come in. What are you talking about? Right? And she got so crazy. I just hung up on her. Right? I just hung up on her. And that's when I came in, and he rented me a car. Tracy rented me like a little Trans Am, and I was doing donuts in the parking lot, just fucking around with the car.
Fantastic.
And then I came in with the jean jacket on, and then someone tried to shake my hand. I go, I don't shake hands. I don't like shaking hands. I started spraying all the doorknobs. Remember, I was spraying all those fucking. I was spraying I had Lysol, and Rose was right there in that middle section.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm spraying down the handles. And she wanted to hang my jacket, and that's when I said, "No wire hangers."
So when you came out, right, at the Christmas party, and Tracy gets up on stage, and he goes, "I gotta tell you guys, Carmen, he's not a new employee, he's a comedian, and we just wanted to pull this prank on you guys." Today, Rose still hates you.
I know.
It's 25 years later.
I know why. I mean, come on.
She still hates you.
It wasn't my fault. I was being paid to do this. How fair is that?
Yeah, it's so funny. It's the best, man. And then when you came in and did the peer group thing, and the stories that we still tell to this day. Now we're not a part of the peer group. Although the older guys get together from time to time. It's when we were at Tracy's house at the dinner, the little dinner before the meeting, and you start talking about your business development. Now you're doing business development for WPC.
I was vice president of business development.
Right. And you start talking about how we're going to be the first contractor to build timeshare on the moon.
Yeah.
And you were dead.
I was dead serious.
Dead straight.
I said, even if we never build it, it doesn't matter. We're going to announce it because we have a relationship with NASA. We're so close to Cape Canaveral that we will be. If they never build it, it doesn't matter. We plan on building it. Right.
And these are presidents and CEOs.
They were like
700
looking at
GCs.
Me. You got people from San Francisco, Texas, Wisconsin. You had some major people in the room.
These are big companies.
In the room. And I wore a suit and everything. I looked like I was legit. But I went to that, I don't know if it was the night before, the night after. They still didn't know who I was. And I came and I had Band-Aids all over my hands. Each finger had a Band-Aid. And of course, someone's going to ask you, what's going on? I go, oh, we played Mumbly Peg last night. Mumbly Peg, yeah, fucking Jeff. He is horrible at Mumbly Peg.
Man, it was so much fun. And
it was a free license to do whatever I wanted.
Right.
And that's
rare. You could make up anything you want, go through the process. It was great.
With a CEO. Imagine today in a company, someone allowing someone to just go through the business and hit on their employees. 'Cause I hit on that one woman.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting next to her. I go, so what are you doing later? She's like, I'm married. I go, so am I.
That's so good. Yeah, but that's Tracy, right? I mean, he comes up with the most creative thought process. And actually, you know what? It was more like, here's the idea, just go. Right? And that's what I loved about my brother. He was just like this really interesting character that you didn't get to see that very often, right? Because he's pretty introverted, pretty straight-laced, He wanted to present himself a certain way.
He wasn't I never talked to him in depth about anything. It was always like, come here, I want to show you something. And then you're on a plane.
Yeah, you got an idea. He's gonna, right.
What do you mean? Show me what? Well, we're going right now on this turbojet. I'm flying you to Orlando. And then I'm like, he just got his license. And everyone's like, you got on a plane with Tracy? I go, I had to.
You don't have a choice, right?
I'm a broke comic. I've got to do what these people tell me to do. This man's wealthy. He owns planes. And then we get to Orlando, and he goes, it's not over. And he puts me on this plane with skis.
Yes.
The other
yeah,
plane.
the turbo,
Which does not, it's not pressurized.
That's right.
So
it's basically just a Cessna.
I didn't know.
turbojet
I've
on
never
it.
been in a plane with no pressurization. And like, I'm not talking. He's like, why aren't you talking? Because I'm panicking. The windows are open on this plane.
You're never going to get high enough for worry
And
about
then
it.
he does the whole St. John's River.
Oh, yeah, it gets really close to it. Right?
Like
He
where
loved
all
that.
the sunken
That's how he introduced it to me, too.
houseboats are and the drug dealers are back there. I'm like, where the hell are we? Right? But I trusted him.
Yeah. He was, I mean, there's no question about it. He was the best at whatever he was going to do. And I'll tell you a quick story about Tracy. So we fly up to Jacksonville to a project I can't remember what plane he had at the time. It was a smaller version of his plane. And we fly up to Jacksonville. We do this meeting with the client, and we're going to come back to Orlando. And he goes, hey, let's stop for lunch. I go, great. He goes, all right, we're going to start in this little town. And right off the top of my head, I can't remember where it was. We landed this small runway. It's got one building, so it's really tiny. He goes, yeah, we're going to have lunch here. And I go, okay. So we get out of the plane. We go in, and this guy hands me a parachute. I go, a young guy. He's like 24 years old. I go, what's this? He goes, oh, we're going to go flying. I go, what do you mean? I came here for lunch. I look back at Tracy. He's laughing. And he goes, put it on. And we go and we get in this small little acrobatic plane. And when I say small, I felt like I could reach my arms out and touch the end of the wings. And so I got I don't get any instruction, by the way. I don't know how to, I wouldn't know what to do if I fell out of a plane, the parachute. Tracy used to, parachute all the time, or skydive all the time. So they put the parachute on, strap it in, then they get me in the plane, and this kid, because I'm at the time 30-something, and this is 24, puts his foot on my chest and straps me in as tight as he could get me. So I'm in this chair. And we take off. And he goes, how you doing? I'm going good. And then he just starts flipping this plane all over the place and doing all this acrobatic stuff. And we stop, and I go, I'm okay. I could tell I wasn't okay, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
He goes, hey, a couple more things. You want to fly it? And I go, sure, I'll play it. And I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I'm just like, and we do a couple more acrobatics, and he lands. And I'm okay right until I step out of the plane. And I hit the ground, and I'm like barfing right on the runway.
That's how it happens.
Yeah. And so the story, though, is Tracy had hired this guy to teach him how to to fly and be in all these conditions so that if he ever got in that situation in his plane, he would already have felt it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right? And so I think RFK Jr. died because he thought he was right side up and he was upside down, or whatever the story is. But Tracy, that was how Tracy, approached everything. He was going to be the best pilot he could be. He was going to be the best sailor he could be.
Where the hell did that come from? Where does that come from?
That
drive? Was he like that in the beginning?
Listen, Tracy, I was born in California. My dad worked at Disneyland. And in 1967, we went from Orange County, California to Orange County, Florida. Tracy stayed. He was 17 years old. He stayed in California. And I don't remember. I'm 4 years old, so my memory is not there. The first time I remember seeing Tracy, he had hitchhiked from California to Florida. Across the country, and a little tangent. He worked at a hot dog factory on the way across. He would work his way across the country. He never ate a hot dog after 17 years old. Never once had a hot dog because he had worked at a hot dog factory. So he comes in, and the first memory I have of Tracy is walking out of the bathroom of the house we were living in at the time, had rented, and here's this long-haired kid. I didn't even know who he was, right? And then all of a sudden I meet my big brother, right, 13 years apart. And it was so cool to have that. Like, I didn't know he existed. I really didn't have my sister.
Shit.
But here's this.
So that's your first encounter with him.
That was my first encounter, right? And so at that point, he goes, he needed a job. My dad worked at Disney World under Buena Vista Construction. So Tracy was a carpenter. As whatever that could mean when you're 17. If you were hanging around my dad, you were a carpenter. I was banging nails when I was 10. Yeah. I could do all that stuff. And so he gets a job at Disney. The problem was, there was two problems with this. He had to cut his hair, which he absolutely hated, and he had to work with my dad, which was really hard, right? My dad's blue collar, man. You're gonna work, right? And my dad, the way that my dad would measure your skill, if you came up and said, I'm a carpenter, he goes, okay. Here's some 2x4s. Here's the things. Go build me a sawhorse. Mm-hmm. He'd give them 1 hour, and they would come back, and that's how he would hire them or tell them to go learn how to build a sawhorse. Right. And so Tracy had a bunch of stories between that experience at Disney, Buena Vista Construction, and actually Winter Park Construction. He had a couple construction companies, framing. Mm-hmm. He used to haul bees from Florida to North Dakota and back seasonally. Bees. So we'd load bees up, in the certain season. In the summer, they'd go north. He'd have this truck full of bees.
That's what we do with bees?
I don't know if they still do this, but this is what happened in the 70s. And then in the wintertime, they'd bring them back to Florida, right? Well, when he would make this haul, he would load his 18-wheeler up with Coors beer. It wasn't allowed on the east of the Mississippi back then.
Yeah.
Right? So, but he'd basically be trafficking
beer.
Coors beer. And he got caught once and arrested.
Really? Are you serious?
And I still have the
mugshot?
newspaper.
The
newspaper of this kid getting caught.
Hanging a mugshot in your office is the thing to do now.
Yeah, I might have to search for that one. But he was a character, man. He was great, and I was
so he's
lucky.
working at Buena Vista Construction.
Yeah,
which is
Buena
owned
Vista
by
Construction,
Disney.
It's the Disney. It's the Disney arm.
Didn't Disney die right before it was complete?
Yeah, he didn't get to.
So
see
he never
the
saw
finish.
it.
He never saw the.
So he comes out of California to come here to build this thing.
Yep.
And he's got a company. Your father's working for him. Is there a connection between the California and the Florida thing?
No, the Buena Vista Construction was the same entity in California as it was in Florida.
Oh,
right?
so there was a connection.
They were the same, right?
Okay.
And it's a Disney construction arm, right? That's the way. In fact, I believe it still exists today. That'd be interesting because I'd love to go find
I
some
wonder who
pictures
the
of my
license
dad.
holder is on that company.
Right on. So Buena Vista Construction, of course, since then they have all kinds of other companies that do all the work out there. But so Tracy, ultimately goes bankrupt.
So is this the first business?
This is the first couple of
the first Winter
right?
Park,
Or
it's not a Winter
had
Park
nothing
yet?
to do with Winter Park.
Okay.
So he had a framing company, and he went bankrupt once.
In the 70s, you could go bankrupt in Florida.
And you'd be fine. Give yourself a couple years, you're back at it.
Right.
Tracy,
the bust and boom cycle in Florida, was that quicker back in the day, thinking in Florida?
I think so.
Because we're not dealing with such massive amounts of money back then in regulation.
Right.
So you could start almost back up.
It didn't take much at all, right?
There was not a lot of regulation either, too.
Yeah.
So you could basically, you're not being tracked or traced by the government, nothing, none of that. Right?
Different regulations
and
altogether.
they didn't care in Florida at that time. You could see by how things were built in this state.
That's
how they still look because
it.
of some of the early development here.
Some of the projects that Tracy worked on that I remember going to when I was like 10 or 11 or 12 years old are still standing. So he must have did a pretty good job. Yeah, they were wood frame jobs too.
Look, that's something about
different world
individual people.
Yeah.
Like I talked about this before. There was a couple houses that were for sale in Ohio, and I knew they were my uncle's. I was like just going to buy them because of who built those houses. And I always say, even in Florida, the realtor should have on the sheet who's the builder. That should be on the sheet. It should be on the sheet.
I love that idea.
Because there's so many people that are classic home builders in this state that built correctly.
Yeah.
And why not advertise that?
I think it's a great idea. We got to push this.
I've tried. I've talked about it in class. You stopped going to live classes.
Yeah, I know.
You go to the.
I'm not the qualifier anymore.
You're not,
I do qualify.
But you keep your license?
I do keep my license.
Okay.
So the purpose
is
of that.
it inactive?
No, I keep it active. So I have no excuse, by the way.
Right.
No excuse.
So you're taking it somewhere.
I have no excuse. It's online. It's online. And I'm taking it. I just make sure that clear. I don't get my assistant to do that. But so Tracy starts Winter Park Construction out of his apartment in Winter Park in 1974.
Wow.
So, he'd all this time prior to that was just a bunch of stuff. And then he starts his company doing residential renovation in Winter Park. And the story that I hear is if you use the name of the city and the name of your company, you got a little tax break.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he lived in Winter Park, so we got a little tax break. That's what I heard.
Was it the high-end community it now is?
It's a high-end, yeah.
Okay.
So he was going and working for some building, renovating beautiful homes. My dad, about a few years later, left Buena Vista Construction and came to work for my brother. Also a little bit difficult because the two of them were they were hard-headed, right? And so Tracy was building, renovating homes and doing additions at homes. And some of these people go, hey, could you build my office building for me? And then we became framers. They hired us to do framing work on some apartments. And that's how we ended up at Orange Lake Country Club.
Okay.
Because we were the carpenters.
Okay.
We were the framing company that got hired by the general contractor out of St. Petersburg or Sarasota, I think. He hires us to do the framing. And
how many people did you have?
8.
Yeah,
8 to 10.
All of you guys are hitting it. You're doing all of you guys are carpenters.
Yeah, everybody's hitting it, right? And at my age, at 15, when I started in 1979, I was a carpenter's helper.
Yeah.
right? I did some labor work. I worked my way through that, and I enjoyed the cleanup process. By the way, it was like my favorite thing to do. Just
Make it
Tracy
nice
used
and
used to bring me to jobs when I was 12, 13 years old, and I would just like stack up the block, and I would stack up the 2x4s, and I would make everything look really good.
It's a
right?
sickness.
And it is. Yeah. It's my compulsiveness. I'd sweep the floors. Yeah, I still love
I got
to do
the
that
same
today.
thing.
I
Trust
still
me.
love to do that today.
I still do it.
I still go out to job sites from time to time with my gloves on.
I'm good at
right?
it. That's why I'm good at it. That's one of my best skills. Go clean up.
Yeah. So
It's a peaceful thing too.
It's therapy.
You're on your own when
It's
you're
therapy,
doing it.
man. It's like pulling weeds.
And it makes everything much better. I learned that when I used to we were very poor in Cleveland, and all you had to do really was paint your house to make it look a little better. Neighborhoods it doesn't take much. Cut the lawn, paint the house, sift the rocks out of the dirt, something. And I was very good at making a very poor house look nicer.
Yeah.
And that was by need, by necessity.
Sure.
So that stuck with me forever.
Yeah, and it's a thing that for me, I always like going by job sites. Another thing I get from my brother, that organizational piece. You go by job sites, and you knew it was our site.
How about your truck? Is it clean?
My truck's clean as a whistle, man. It was always clean. My trucks were always in good shape. But, just real quick, to kind of put a bow on my brother, it was really interesting to see him evolve and watch him grow.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I was a young guy, right? I was 15.
From a framer to now, that's a sub, right, at that point.
So we were a subcontractor. We did general contracting work, which was really more of the additions and the renovations.
Right.
And then we did subcontracting work as a framer. And so the general contractor wanted to come back home, right? He goes, I don't want to live in Orlando and build this stuff. I want to come back to Sarasota.
Right.
And so he introduced Tracy. Tracy had already met Kemmons Wilson, who founded Holiday Inns and also was the founder of Orange Lake Country Club.
No kidding.
And introduced Kemmons to Tracy and said, this is your guy. He can build this stuff. I don't need to be here. And that was how we got into the hospitality business in Florida and became one of the largest timeshare builders in the world.
Holy smokes. So when did the building come into existence?
The WPC's building?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we moved from Tracy's apartment. It was I think it was right when I started working, about 1978, 79.
You bought that building?
No, we moved to Park Avenue above. It was like a second floor office, cool little space. And I remember because downstairs was Brandywine's Deli, and it was Italian family. And the whole family worked there, right? And the daughter was so
I knew you were going to bring up the
beautiful.
daughter.
She was so pretty, man. And I'm a 15.
What was her name? That's what I was going to say. Maria.
I'm 15 or 16 years old.
And Mr. Brandon went like, what are you doing, Jeff?
19 or 20. And I was like always at the office at lunchtime because I'm going to Brandywine's to get me my sandwich, right? Hot roast beef on an onion roll with extra Swiss. And she knew it. I'd walk in the door and I was getting it. So
what do you mean? Anyway, go ahead.
So we had that office, and then in 1981, so this is Tracy's brain, home box office. You may not even know what that is. Becomes HBO. Becomes
That's
HBO,
right?
Right? So, and International Business Machines is IBM, and so home box office becomes HBO, and this is 1980, 81.
Yeah.
And Tracy goes, well, we need that logo. We need WPC. So Winter Park Construction in early 80s became WPC.
Because he saw the logo thing
He saw
happening.
the logo. And he saw that was his kind of what inspired him to
Really?
make this WPC logo. And if you look at them, they're not too far off. They have this three-dimensional depth to them,
Yes.
and you put them next to each other, and that was how
Usually
that
guys kind of learn that stuff through motivational classes or books or something. So this was him.
This was his brain, man.
Just him.
This was his engineering brain.
He was
his
observing the
creative-
business world and seeing what was working for others.
Right.
Brought it into his company.
You got it.
And then buys this building, though.
We buy this tiny little 800 square foot. I say we. Tracy buys this tiny little 800 square foot house in Maitland. So now we're out of Winter Park.
Okay.
It also made sense to be WPC because you're no longer in Winter Park. We kept the Winter Park name, and people still call us Winter Park Construction. Yeah. But WPC was what we were in the early 80s. And he buys this 800 square foot house, and that's the building we were in till 1991. So for about 10 years, maybe 9 or 10 years, we're working out of this little space. We'd put a trailer in the back. That's how we expanded, to make more space for people. I ended up building this little warehouse. And then we started building what was known as WPC's corporate office. It started out at 6,000 square feet, super cool, built it around the trees. It was a wonderful.
And you had a separate building for the architect.
had the separate building off to the side on Circle Drive. Tracy bought that little house around the corner.
Who was your architect? I remember you had a
Gary Hancock.
Yeah, you had a special architect.
Gary Hancock, and he still does it. He still owns Winter Park Design. So
see what I remember, and what struck me, and what I talk about in school to this day, I still talk about team building was a term that you heard. I don't know, when did that start? The 90s. People talking about teams, and instead of the crew, it was the team. And I really felt like, I always say that when I came to Winter Park, I was actually jealous that I didn't work there. That's how
cool,
great
man.
The business was, because of course I'm looking at all the fun. I'm not looking at
sure, yeah. Construction business is work, right? Yeah.
It's like me watching TV, right? I'm like, oh, this looks cool, and then no, that's television, right?
Yeah.
So what I was seeing was, the events.
Yeah.
Talking about if an employee of Winter Park came up with an idea, as long as they ran it every year, that event happened every year.
They had to take ownership, right? Yeah.
But it didn't matter what it was, whether it was flying those historic jets over there in Lakeland or wherever you guys were doing, or whether it was some golf tournament, right, or the awards ceremony that you had. And I got a gold. I got the biggest bullshitter of 2001, right? that was the shovel you gave me.
That's
it was
right.
a shovel,
That's
it's spray painted gold. It was the biggest bullshit BS award of whatever.
BS award, that's right.
And all the fun.
Yeah.
All the fun, which to me, I think maybe that's what turned me off about a lot of work back in the day. And maybe why I leaned toward comedy, because I wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
And it could have been from struggle as a kid and things that happened to me that I was just looking and seeking fun. Now, I worked in construction with my family. We had fun, but it was a different game, right? My uncle was very stiff. He was very focused. He was that mob figure.
This
Uncle
is Cleveland,
Frank.
right?
Yeah, he was showing up.
Up north.
Yeah,
they don't have the H in there. It's Nort. Up north.
Up north, right?
Yeah.
And he would roll down the window of the Lincoln to tell you something, but you couldn't get too close. And really, like I always said, if you did something wrong on the job, he wouldn't tell you. He'd wait till Sunday dinner. Then he would bring it up in front of Grandma. Then you were in trouble.
Oh man,
that's how it worked.
Wow.
Because you were ashamed in front of the whole family.
Yeah.
About how it was, and there was a lot of bragging rights to making money for him or building.
Yeah, big family, right?
Huge family on my mother's side, but on my uncle's side, who had all the money, they had 3 boys, and me, right? So I was always trying to prove myself. A lot of competition, a lot of ball busting. Then I had an older cousin, but there was a lot less fun.
Yeah.
And every time I try to interject fun into something, grow up, you idiot. I mean, that's how they would talk.
Yeah.
So when
it's
I saw
generational though, right? I mean, that's what it was.
It's cultural, I think. There was not a lot of laughter. Like I sometimes will talk to other comedians about this, and they would put on shows in their house. Like they would do little comedy sketches. Like Eddie Murphy, I remember reading a book or watching something about him. Him and his brother would entertain his family. Couldn't do that at my family. If you did that, you're a weirdo or worse.
Yeah.
The names that they would say. So if you had an umbrella, you were a weirdo. So it's a very tough family to be in. It's a very tough family to be in.
From now on, every time I get an umbrella, I'm going, I can't use that.
Not in front of them. What's wrong with you? Right? So to see the fun that you guys were having.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I get this. Any company I go to, I'm always at their best with the employees. It's an event. Yeah. They're having a party. But Winter Park, I saw more than just the party.
So we would do it all the time. I mean, Thursday afternoons, that was the meetings at the office. All the superintendents, everybody would come, and we'd sit in the warehouse and we'd crack the beers, and that was it. And I won't use last names, but we would do that frequently, right up to the point where one of our guys got a little drunk and walked into a street and got hit by a car, not by an 18-wheeler, but it was a conscious effort that people enjoyed doing that. And I loved that part of my job because Tracy kind of let me have some of that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I was a sales guy. I was a bullshitter. I mean, I went to BSU. I mean, I don't know if you remember that picture Tracy gave me. He had a piece of artwork with that had this character, and his college degree was master's
hilarious.
at BSU.
And
I still have it.
Didn't he have that famous cartoonist do all of your drawings?
Jake Vest.
Who did he draw?
He was Jake is what was the guy? What was the character's name?
Wasn't it a dog that he drew?
Well, he drew them all. I mean, he ended up another Tracy thing. So Jake used to be the cartoonist for the Orlando Sentinel, and he would also be a columnist. Super funny guy, And Tracy hired him, and he goes, hey, I've got a bunch of characters in my company. Would you draw characters, right? And so Frank Gerlach, who you know, right?
Oh,
Big
yeah,
Frank,
Biggin.
right?
Mr.
He's
Biggin.
Biggin, yeah.
Biggin.
He's at that. He's trying to figure out if he's going to keep going or he's going to move to North Carolina, wherever he's doing. So he's got to the age where he's ready to kind of decide his future. But he was the inspiration for Wilson P. Clawhammer, which is a character that we still have.
I remember
right? So
that.
WPC is his initial.
That was him.
Wilson P. Clawhammer.
His name's Gerlach.
Frank Gerlach. And his wife works for us.
I have a booker that I work named Dan Gerlach, and every time I work for this guy, I just called him Frank. Again, I was on stage. I go, I want to thank Frank Gerlach. I mean Dan, because Gerlach's name
it sticks, man. It's hard,
unique.
Right?
And he was a big dude. He was a muscular.
Yeah. So when we hired him in the '90s, like he was fit.
In his peak.
He'd come when he came and to the job sites. He would bring this massive lunchbox, and you'd open it up. It was like 10 chickens in there because he was eating protein. He was bodybuilding. He was doing all this stuff, and he was a Mason, so he'd love to go out and lift block and do his thing. And but
a nice guy, very nice guy.
Yeah, a great construction brain, right?
Yeah.
Still to this day, probably forgotten more than I'll ever know. And we're so lucky to have him. And we've got a handful of those guys that have stuck around, Larry Muller and all that kind of stuff. But just to circle back real quick, the fun part was about making sure people enjoyed going to work, because the construction business kind of sucks sometime, right? You work in Florida, you wake up, you go out and you're getting in the heat and you're doing all this stuff. And so how do we create an environment that people want to hang around? And it's why Larry Muller has been at the company for 47 years, right? I mean, June 9th, I'm 46 years. And Larry's getting ready to retire, so I don't think he'll get to 50, although we have a little bet going who gets to 50. And so I've got 4 more years of getting to that so I can be 50 years. Because Tracy obviously and Maggie passed away to get a chance to do it. But Tracy, I mean, he was I was so lucky that he was my brother, right? So it was cool. I had this cool big brother, but a smart business guy.
Yeah.
Right?
He was a leader.
So he was somebody that would just think, so he started flying planes. We talked about that. And he got mad that he was paying so much for fuel. Because the fuel's so expensive for these planes. I want to do something about it. So he goes and he negotiates a land deal with Sanford Orlando Airport to build an FBO so he could have all these general aviation hangars and lease those out to all the people so he didn't have to pay for fuel. That was it.
Wait, he offset it.
He did all this work and came up with this idea that, by the way, is a functioning, profitable business to this day that my sister, I call her my sister, his wife Ray, and it runs it's the Southeast Ramp. But the reason why he built the Southeast Ramp, which is this massive,
so he could offset the fuel price,
so he could get free fuel.
Wow! I thought you were telling me he was taking grease from a trap and making and actually.
No, I mean he knew what fuel cost. He knew what the wholesale price was for fuel.
Yeah.
Right. And then the retail price. I mean, it's a great margin, and he didn't want to pay the gap.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was cool, dude, man. I got to.
Well, he was more than just fun too, because I remember, and I was telling Donnie before you came, didn't he bring like Harvard professors to your company and have run a graduate program? What do they call it? A business management program.
So Tracy did owner president management. I think it was what they call OPM 21, which is an executive education at Harvard Business School. So you go on campus to the business school, and you for 21 days straight. 3 different years. So they have units, they called him. He did this 95, 96, 97, I think were the years. And he was doing, interacting in classes with the business school professors, right? It's the same professors that teach the Masters of Business, the MBA students, but now it's 40 and 50-year-old owners of companies, 100 of them sitting in a room.
They probably taught Harvard something.
And the professors loved it because these are business people.
Right.
They're not sitting there just absorbing information. They're arguing. Like, that's not the way that should have been done. Or, because case studies at Harvard, because I ended up doing this as well, they give you 75% of the case, and then you sit in class and discuss the other 25%.
Right.
And so Tracy did this program, OPM, and met a guy named Mike Wheeler, who became a friend of mine. He was the negotiating professor at Harvard. And he came and he would teach us negotiating classes. Crazy. And it was the best. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched, if you ever get a chance to watch people bidding on $1. Have you ever seen this?
No.
So first thing he did is he gets up in front of class and he goes, all right, we're going to bid on this $1. And then he would goat people in to bidding higher than $1 for $1. And it's a story, right? I mean, there's a lesson there about the negotiation piece.
Right.
And Mike was a wonderful dude. And I think he just recently retired a few years back. I got to go to Harvard and do the OPM in 10, 11, and 12, or 9, 10, 11. And it was the best experience, business experience I've ever had.
Really?
Because there was 165 people from all over the world. You're sitting in, you're confined for 21 days in this environment where you're just
at Harvard.
At Harvard, in dorms. You're in the dorm, in the dorm, and you'd have study groups. At 8 study groups, I had a wonderful study group. Just a tangent. So the study groups are organized. Every unit should be different. So the first year, I get a study group, and it's great. I've got a classmate from Thailand, India, Amsterdam, 2 from Brazil, 1 from Texas, and 1 from Colombia. And there's 8 of us. And so we're all in the dorm together, and our meeting space, we would, right outside of our rooms, is where we would study. So you get study groups in the morning and study groups at night. Well, my Brazilian buddy, Andre, he wanted to get creative with the study groups at night. So it was like bottles of wine, or then we're going to go to restaurants. I'm going to take you to a Brazilian restaurant. You're going to go to a Colombian restaurant. We're going to go to a Thai restaurant, an Indian restaurant. And this is what we did for 21 days.
Brazil's got other things, too.
It's the best. So we go to year 2, and all of us get broken up into different groups.
Same group, same people?
Same 165 people, but the study group is different. So our study group is now, we have a new study group.
Right.
So I go to Jackie Bauer. She was the administrator. And Tracy goes, here's what you do. Go to Jackie, bring her a bottle of vodka, and tell her you want the same study group you had in Unit 1 when you get to Unit 3. So I walk into Jackie's office and with my bottle of vodka, and she goes, Tracy told you to do that.
He knew.
I go, yeah. She goes, well, okay, what do you want? I go, hey, my study group in year 1 was so much fun. Is there any way you could reorganize us and we could all be in Unit 3? And she goes, I'll see if I can do it. And then we come back the next year and we're all together.
Wow.
And it's but I say that because you're interacting with people of all different cultures, all different societal, differences.
So was this your idea or his
business
idea?
Tracy pushed me to do this.
Okay.
And he wanted me to do it far sooner than I ended up doing it. The reason why I didn't do it earlier, so I'm dyslexic. So reading for me is about 4 times slower than most people.
Right.
And when you do case studies, you get case studies the night before, and you got to read them and be ready to just talk about it and then go in class. So there was no way I was going to be pushing through these case studies fast enough. So I had to learn how to read differently. At the time, I'm dating this girl whose father taught kids how to speed read. And she had to do this. It's fantastic. So she taught me how to speed read. It's a totally different way of reading, and I still use it to this day. It's amazing. It's amazing. My dyslexic brain was not able to process this one word at a time kind of component. But when you start grouping sentences together and you're reading
you
the first,
see more than once, more than one word at a time.
Exactly right. So you're getting context.
Does that affect you in the real world, like seeing more than one person at a time?
You know me too well. But so anyways, I got the courage to go. And it's the best thing I ever did. And my study group, my 7 study group partners that I have, we are tight as thieves to this day. We've done reunions all over the world. I was in India with my buddy Raj, and every one of them is different, right? Just really super intelligent people. And they're resources, right? So if we do Zoom calls and go, hey, I got, and Andre owns a massive construction company in Brazil, and so you get a chance to talk to these people, much like our peer group, where I'm not going to learn everything.
Right.
I don't want to make all these mistakes myself. Somebody's made this mistake before. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call somebody, right? And so Harvard was great. Tracy did that OPM thing, and
it was stunning when I heard about it, because I thought. Again, I mean, some of these guys will come, and like we just had Howard Wheeler last week, and he was telling me he goes to the banks in Fort Myers and puts on educational seminars for free to make sure that the bank doesn't fail when they deal with contractors. I'm like, and no one, you're not charging for this? He goes, no, I want to make the community better. I'm like,
right on. Yeah. Well, Mike is the reason why I became what I would consider the kind of negotiator in the company. So to this day, I'll still negotiate contracts in the company, and I'll still, it's the way you look at things. It's how you go through things. Most people, I'm going to negotiate price, right? Or I'm going to negotiate time. Well, there's a dozen other things you can negotiate. And so it was great. Tracy was awesome, man. I got to tell you.
It's a very well-rounded company all the way.
Right.
When I think about this stuff, because I come from the comedy background, basically thinking about how we are so niched in just comedy, right? Comedians don't have to get together and talk about business, but business people do get together and have fun and talk about doing comedy kind of things.
Yeah.
So you have like a more well-rounded, like you'll have the Harvard thing, right, at your office, and then next week you're doing an episode of The Apprentice. And we filmed it, and I think we ran that thing till we fired everybody.
So great. It was, man, the skits that Harry would put together, and you guys,
crazy.
It was.
I have all the VHS tapes of all this stuff.
I need to get some of these.
Oh,
man. We got to put this digital. We got to digitize.
Oh yeah,
this stuff.
I have a lot.
We've
of
got a lot
stuff.
of that stuff, and
here. I'll tell you one thing too. That again, this is all Tracy stuff, right? You were there. Ron was there. Frank was there. Who was the girl? Heidi with the dually. She had a big
Holly.
Holly.
Right? Oh my gosh.
All these people who I knew for years. They were my family. They were basically for 15, 20 years still, right? But Tracy hires me to roast every employee. Now you had 100-some people I had to roast.
Had a big group.
And I stayed home and I wrote out name and I wrote out a little thing about he gave me. I had to get research on every person. I knew a lot of people.
A little bit of bio information, but
like Branham and the Porsches. I knew a lot of things, but what it comes down to is I have to roast, right? So I get fully prepared. I get to this hotel by you guys, and I'm wearing they were non-Skechers. It was a Sketcher type shoe, but it was more chunkier. And one of the guys said to me, "Goes, oh, nice corrective shoes." I'm like, "What?" Right there. I mean, they start busting your balls as soon as you get there.
Are they lifts?
Right?
You got a couple.
They're Governor DeSantis shoes. That's what they were. So I get on stage to just about to. I don't know if you remember this, to roast everybody, and the curtain opens and it becomes a roast of Carmen Ciricillo. They flipped the script.
Why am I missing this?
They flipped the script on me. Yeah. And they ran a video.
This now I remember. So it was a video. So
it was
people
a
didn't
video.
Roast you. We did the video.
It was a video from my point of view, which was about 3 feet off the ground, trying to come into the and the camera's hopping,
hopping,
trying
Harry,
to see.
Man. That was Harry.
They beat the shit out of me. And I said, "Oh my God!" Here's the thing, right? I was.
You've done all this work too.
I did all this work, and I said, "What the hell? Are they gonna pay me? Because I need the money, right?" It was a gig.
Yeah.
And you still paid me to roast me.
Of course.
To roast me.
The best.
So everything that when I talk to all these guys in construction school, ours is construction comedy school. We never thought that was going to blow up like it did. The state gave us a little bit of an issue in the beginning. I remember going to it was a building code class, right? It was a board meeting. And one of the board members got up and says, "There's even a bunch of guys out here doing a school with comedy." I go, That's me. I go, ask me anything. Or ask any of my students anything, and I'll tell you something. Or come to my class, and you'll see.
It's the real deal.
That we run one of the best seminars in the state, and we do. To this day, I got 4 board-certified attorneys. I got 2 worker comp guys. I got a safety guy. I've had every type of, whether it was environmental, whether it was a general contractor that just wanted to teach ethics. I got a bonding guy. And these people do this for a living, all day, all night. So when you leave my class and you call me, I go, yeah. Call Duke, call Charlie, call Paul. These guys are still out there, still working. Call our attorneys in Gainesville, right? And they don't even charge these guys for the first hour, which, I know there's a little bit of a hook and they're trying to get them, but they do help us all the time.
Yeah.
And they've been with me. They've never missed a class. We're putting on a true valuable asset versus what I heard it was when I first got in was guys falling asleep. Teachers who didn't care, they would read from a book for 14 hours. Didn't care if the crowd got it or not. It was a closed crowd. You're like on a cruise ship and you're trapped, and this is your entertainment. And like it or not, this is what you're getting. We were never like that, so we built that thing to make sure that people were entertained. And I've entertained the construction industry ever since. I've did real construction rock, my construction comedy, actual stand up. I just had a company call me.
My safety videos?
Your safety videos.
Those are awesome.
The safety videos that we did during COVID because everybody was bored.
Nobody's working, yeah.
Right, but it gets people's attention.
Yeah. Well, 14 hours it sucks, right?
It's horrible.
It's basically the same thing over and over every 2 years.
My slogan is I can make 14 hours feel like a mere 12.
But the reality is you're there and you're looking forward to it. You're not going, I don't dread the idea of having to go through 14 hours.
We tried to retire
awesome,
2 years ago, and
awesome.
I announced it in 2022 that I was getting out. And I announced
you're big time. So
I announced it in the beginning of the seminar season. And it started reaching other guys before I even got there to the seminars. And people were like, don't you dare. What are we going to do? This is like a vacation. Like, people really like.
Hopefully you're charging them more money because of that. I mean, that's demand right there. That's
You know,
that's how it works.
we've kept it around the same price.
You're pretty competitive. I know. I look at it.
You know, and it's only because it's me and my wife running the whole thing, and I beat her. I let her take the beating, you know, so I'm like.
But it's awesome, man.
Until Kelly can't take it no more. Now, Kelly does a lot for the company, believe me. She'll get calls all day, all night when I'm sitting on the couch, and it's not over. It's over for me. I've already spoke, but people are calling her.
Yeah.
My license or the state, or I got a question. And she kind of likes it.
Yeah, it gives. She looks
I
like
think
she
she
would.
loves
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like she
Got
like
it.
this podcast where she prepares all the food beforehand.
Yeah, and it's
Like she
listen.
like
I've
she
never,
panics. She panics,
I've done,
but she.
I've done a half a dozen podcasts. I've never had food before. I like that. I've never had the spread.
Well, this
like
is all
the-
of our. You guys are all of our friends.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So
I have a lot of
my
people.
question is: does it happen even if you're not doing a podcast? Because I don't eat that well.
Her?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I
yeah.
Come over. I just give her a heads up.
Oh,
come
you
over?
kidding me?
Fantastic.
Any day of the week.
She'd do it.
Any day of the week.
That's awesome. Well, you know, when Tracy gave me the reins in the early 2000s, said, all right, you know, I got other things I want to do. And he was doing other things already. He goes, all right, so we're going to start thinking about what it looks like for you to, you know, you're going to own this company. And we want to
Really?
make sure. Yeah.
You're
So it was
preparing.
early 2000s, right? And that's when he started pushing the OPM piece. And the reason I transitioned
Wait,
to
now
that,
say what is the OPM?
owner-president management.
Owner what?
Owner-president management.
Owner
And it's
President Management.
And it's at Harvard, their executive education. The OPM is kind of about the highest level of executive education you can get. They do all kinds of great stuff. I mean, it's fantastic. I cannot recommend. I don't even get paid by Harvard, but I cannot recommend it enough. If you can pull off going to Harvard for a weekend, for a week, or do the OPM piece, they have all different levels of leadership training. And it's fantastic because you're in, right? I mean, they're not messing around.
They teach comedy.
No, nobody's got a sense of
I think they
humor.
do.
Yeah, do they really?
I think isn't the top comedy school one of them out of Harvard, the Harvard Lampoon.
Yes, you know, so you got business school, you got law school, you got
Yeah.
medical school. Maybe they have the comedy piece. I wasn't aware about it.
Yeah, Juilliard is up there too. That's where
I love Boston.
that's where Williams
I
went.
love Cambridge and Boston, man. There's nothing. It's one of my favorite places to hang
Love it,
out.
yeah.
Great food.
Oh yeah,
Great
Little
food.
Italy, beautiful. So,
So-
yes, you're pushing. You have an agenda early 2000s, right?
Yeah, Tracy's got a plan, right? And Tracy was never one to release the entire plan at any given time, right? It was always like, I'm going to put out the breadcrumbs, and if you start following the breadcrumbs, we're going to go somewhere. And you know, I mean, I had no problem living in the shadow of this guy. He was brilliant. I was soaking it in, right? I had a big brother, a mentor, a boss.
You were
and
playing
then
basketball. You were having fun.
ultimately a partner.
You were having a good time too. I
I
don't
always had a
remember.
good, I still have a good time.
Let's not
I
discount the good time that you were having that entire time that I saw you every
Great
other
time.
year
It wasn't good times. They were great times.
in Biloxi or downtown Orlando playing hoops or the poker and staying. I stayed at your house for some reason. I forgot what it was, but you were having a pretty good time.
Yeah, I mean, I was single too. I mean,
You were
I
single?
was single, and you know,
Remember, it's a construction pod. You can tell them.
yeah, right. on. So, and it's funny. I get, and by the way, both of my ex-wives are great friends of mine. Their husbands are great friends of mine. We all do stuff together and hang out, right? So
nice.
I tell you this story because I get divorced and I was 36 years old. So I do the math, however long ago that was, 26 years ago. And I'm sitting in Tracy's off on a Sunday, and I'm all bummed out, right? And he goes, all right, well, why don't you go to the conference at the timeshare conference, and maybe you'll meet somebody. And sure enough, I go to the timeshare conference, and I meet this beautiful girl from Bermuda who's still my friend to this day. And anyhow, I tell you that because I got invited to go with a client to go to Vegas. And this is 2001 or 2. Client out of Fort Lauderdale. We're building for him in Orlando.
From this event.
From this event. Yeah, well, I had already done a little work with them, but I at this event, they say, listen, we want to build timeshare in Vegas. Would you go? And I go, I'm not a contractor. I don't know anything about the environment. Yeah, but would you do? Is there some way you would manage this project for us? JP O'Toole, a wonderful human. He goes, you're building for me in Orlando. I want you to do this. And I said, I'll tell you what. I'll see if I can find people to help you. I can't be the general contractor. And we fly out to Vegas, and he doesn't even have his land. He goes, okay, we got to find some land. I'm going, I have like no clue what I'm doing. But
Sometimes.
I do have a master's at BSU, so I'm
Right.
like working my through
Right.
this. I'm thinking Vegas, right? Okay, my sister lives there. I can hang out.
Yeah.
And Tracy's encouraging this, right? So you can go. You're single. Go hang out in Vegas. Do this work. Don't be a complete idiot, but this is a good deal. So we go out, and I end up becoming the development manager in the sense that I helped them with land acquisition, approvals. We hired architects, wonderful architect out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and then met Penta Building Group, which is a general contractor in Las Vegas, they're still friends of mine that to this day now, or 25 years later. And so I worked in Las Vegas for 18 years. I traveled back and forth from Orlando doing what ultimately became, once the land was approved and we just building construction management work. Construction management work.
You don't remember me and you having lunch in St. Pete and you saying to me, I need you in Vegas?
That would have been fun. And you never came.
I couldn't. You said it was 26 years ago, right? I'm trying to remember.
So I started going to Vegas in 2001.
Right. And at that time, I was doing Halligan Discovery Channel, construction school, and I had 3 kids.
You were a busy man.
And you said to me, I need you to be my front man. Come with me. And you were serious as a heart attack. And I was like so like pissed that I couldn't, because I was like, oh shit, because the fear and loathing in Las Vegas, baby. I mean, I am a degenerate when it comes to Vegas. I will stay out. I will gamble. I will drink.
So I never gambled.
Oh shit!
Right?
I am.
Jeff, my son's a professional poker player. I never gambled in the 18 years. I ended up playing like a slot machine with somebody else's money, and that's it, right? Because I'm in the construction business. I'm gambling every day.
Yeah,
and
I know. I hear that from guys.
But I could go out. I mean, I could hang.
Rolling dice while listening to Sinatra, it was such a classic for me. I had seen it on TV again. Don't you understand? I'm a baby of television, and I saw the movies. I saw Mo Green or whatever, Meyer Lansky, and all these guys
Frank
out.
Sinatra.
Every guy who was when the mob went to Vegas in Godfather 2, right? They're in Tahoe and they go to Vegas, right? And they want a piece of that action. Every Italian's sitting at home going, I can't wait. I can't wait. And then you get there and it's a bunch of kids with long drinks and strollers and buffets. And where's the Vegas that I'm looking for? That was I had gone in 79.
Wow. Okay.
I was 16.
I actually went in 1978 with my dad.
79? Was that the year? I was in college. The University of Iowa went to the Rose Bowl in 1980, right? So I was 17. I couldn't have been. I was in college. I was 18. I was almost 18. Almost 18. Yeah, because it had to be the following year. And then we went to Vegas first. Now, the great thing was my uncle knew a lot of the pit bosses because they all came from Youngstown. So he goes, go see this guy at the Tropicana, right? So we go to the Tropicana. He hooks us up with the rooms, right? Me and my friends. I had 4 guys in a van that we drove from friggin' Quad Cities, Iowa, 60
Fantastic.
hours. And on the way, we stopped. Went skiing. We stopped in Texas, but we went to Los Angeles. So we go to Vegas. He hooks us up. We get the rooms. Then we go to Pasadena, and my uncle knows Bob Hope's business manager. He's got an RV, so we meet him at the RV. He gives us 4 tickets to the Rose Bowl. We already had student tickets, so we scalped those tickets.
Made some money.
We met the mayor of Pasadena at the Rose Bowl and offers us to go in a friggin' hot air balloon with him, and we said no because we're looking for women. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Of course, you get on the hot air balloon.
In hindsight, it wasn't your best choice, but
I
get it.
Stupid, like an idiot. I mean, so many of those mistakes as a kid. I mean,
I still make some of those.
Bob Hope's business manager, right? I stayed with this guy. I went back in '89 and stayed at his house in Burbank. Went to the Burbank Country Club. Met Walter Lance, who was the Woody Woodpecker drummer.
Right on.
I met Tom. It was the opener for Frank Sinatra. Tom Dreesen.
Okay.
So Dreesen brings me to Laugh Factory, and I open for Jamie. Jamie Masada owns the company.
So you were a comic at that point.
I was 1 year in.
All right.
I was talking about rubbers and hemorrhoids. That's all I had. And Jamie Masada.
But Laugh Factory is a big deal.
Huge.
Yeah,
Wrong
that's
time.
a big deal.
Wrong.
That's
I should have waited.
Okay.
I did not wait. I just was chomping at the bit. They put me on stage. I just fucking died a big death. And they all just are looking at me. And I know they called Cleveland. And probably I didn't realize it at that time that my family knew I was a big friggin' loser even before I got home. And never brought that up to me. They never brought it up to me.
Not even at grandma dinner?
No. One thing is, I shamed them in Los Angeles in front of Bob Hope's business manager. And then me and Kelly ended up moving out there, and the guy, he was nice to me, took me to lunch, but
Right on.
I was 2 years into it. I
That's the
blew
beginning
it.
stages
I blew
of
it.
the world, man.
But
Look at you now. Look at you now, though.
But I had gone to Vegas before the blow up.
Yeah.
Before, when Caesars was
late
little.
Late 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, it was a different Vegas.
It was big, chunky coins.
Yeah, I never gambled, but I
How do you
could
not
party
gamble?
like
How do you not gamble?
I just never liked there's something about pulling money out of my pocket and sticking it on something I don't have any idea what I'm doing.
So the draw of winning never got to you.
Never got me there. Never got me there.
That's
Gives
so
me
odd.
I'm a competitive guy. I mean, we're contractors. We try to get out there and we get these jobs.
No,
but,
I get it.
So I would fly to Vegas on Thursday afternoon, night. You know, you get out there at night. I would just chill, either go to dinner with my contractor or hang out. The next day, I'm at the job site all day long. I'm doing what I do, which is walking, pay apps, or doing whatever it is I needed to do, and then I'd go home and I'd get some sleep, and then I'm out 9 o'clock at night. I'm heading to the Strip. And I had met a number of people at that point.
So you're going out even after you work all day.
I work all
In
day,
the
but I
heat.
got a nap. Right? I got a nap.
A small nap.
Yeah, got a nap. I'm good. I'm young. I still
Right.
got some energy.
Right.
And I go out and I learned what Vegas was like at that point. The longer
Pull this
version
up
of that.
towards you. I want to make sure
Yeah.
you're talking right into that.
The longer version of that story is Tracy goes, you got to stay at the Bellagio the first time you go out there. It was brand new at the time. And so I go to the Bellagio. This is my first trip. And 7 o'clock at night, I'm like, I'm going to go get a drink. I'm going to get some food, right? I walk into the Caramel Lounge, which is the center lounge at the Bellagio, completely empty, except for one bartender behind the counter. And I'm like, shit, I must be in the wrong place. Right? This is Vegas. Nobody's here. And I go up and I sit down, and she was so polite to me. She took me like this little, kid that didn't have any clue what he was doing, and it was true. And she goes, so what are you doing? I'm like, I can get a job here. I'm going to work here. I'm going to come here, once or twice a month. I don't know if it's going to last, but I'm going to have fun. And she goes, yeah, you're really early, right? I go, what does that mean? She goes, you're 5 hours early.
For the
7
for the
o'clock
night,
at night.
for the party.
Yeah. This place starts getting busy at 12 o'clock. Well, she had this shift. She goes, I get off at 11. So why don't you get some food, meet me back here at 11 o'clock, and I'll just show you around. And so sure enough, I'm thinking she's going to be gone and she's blowing me off. But she's very nice, very, very wonderful girl. She goes, all right, let's go. And she goes, I'm going to show you what it means to get around Vegas. And we walk over to this club called Light at the Bellagio. And there's this big crowd waiting to get in. And she bypasses all of it and goes in the exit and walks up to the rope. And she goes, introduce me to this guy. Scott McKinley is his name. Shouldn't say it, but Scott. Anyway, Scott. And Scott's the rope guy. And I'm still friends with Scott to this day, like 25 later. So he's the VIP guy that lets people in. You walk up.
Yeah.
And she goes,
You
hey,
keep everybody as a friend, by the way.
somehow, some way, man, it's cool, right? I mean, you meet people for a
Smart.
reason.
Smart.
So she introduced me to Scott, and she goes, hey, this is my friend Jeff. If he's going to be showing up here every once in a while, will you take care of him? And Scott goes, no problem. Pulls a red rope open. We walk into the club, and there's 200 people trying to get in, right? And I think this is the greatest thing ever. So we go in. She introduced me a couple people in the club. We have a drink. She goes, all right, we're going. I go, what do you mean we're going? She goes, we're going to go to the next club. And so we go over to Babies, which is what turned out to be Body English. This is at the Hard Rock now. Now we're big time. Same story. Walks up. There's Jason. I meet Jason. She goes, this is my friend Jeff. If he comes around, will you take care of him? Jason, no problem. Pulls the rope open. I'm in the club. Now, that was early, right? That was the first time I went to Vegas. After that, I could get any nightclub that I wanted to get in. And you just meet these guys and you treat them right. You're nice to them. You're not a dick, right? Walking up thinking you're somebody.
Yeah.
You throw them a couple bucks and that's even a bonus, right? I still talk to Jason to this day. I still talk to Scott. And there, Vegas is one of those towns where if you meet the right people, you can
You have
get
to
anywhere
do
you want.
this everywhere. I try to instill this in my children. I saw my Uncle Frank do it.
I'm nice to the guys in the bathroom. The bathroom attendant, like I go, hey man, how you doing? And I always treat them the same way. I treat them the same way as I treat anybody else. And it got it. I think for me, it's karma. It's all the things you want it to be.
Because it's worked.
Yeah.
Once it works once.
Yeah.
Right, and you know what that that pattern is. I remember going to a show for Wilson Art, the big Formica company.
Sure.
They're not Formica. They're a Surface company. They're competitors Formica. I was in Texas and Dallas. I was struggling in '97. I was looking for a way to get gigs. I started going through Builder magazine, and I started calling suppliers. Just the 800 number.
Right. No kidding.
I had nobody.
Right.
Right. I would get through to somebody. I go, who's in charge of events? I didn't know what to say. As I figured out what the title was, I got the title, started calling everybody, asking for that person. If the company had that person, there was a big enough company to hire me.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting I'm going to the hotel, and I never really go down for sound check. I don't know. I'm already thinking I told you, I thought I was Sinatra when I was 18. I'm nobody, but I'm not doing sound check, right? They should know what they're doing. But I go to sound check for the first time. I go down there, I look at the theater. I'm like, it's beautiful. And this lady's cleaning, right? She's cleaning between the seats, and kind of like I'm trying to get around her, and I'm getting frustrated because she's in my way, and then I'm like, calm down, you idiot. I always talk to myself like, you got nothing to do.
The inner dialogue starts to go.
You have a small bag of Doritos in your room, and that's it. There's nothing else you're looking forward to tonight. So she's very nice. She's wearing like the regular outfit, the outfit that I would have judged somebody who is not doing well. The black shoes for the janitorial, she's got the garbage can next to her. Bad move on my part, by the way, to judge people like this. This is just something growing up in Cleveland, again, where my family, who always said shit all the time, always made comments, kind of taught you a certain thing. I was getting out of it because I had moved. This lady says to me, do you have time to sit down? I'm like, no. Who are you? Because I just have a seat with me. She goes, I just want to talk to you. She goes, what are you doing here? And I told her. And she started telling me about a long story about how she met these angels. Oh, here we go. I always get in a conversation, and this is me. Once I start talking to people, I am pretty good at not blowing people off and listening to your story and being interested. Her angels were investors that told her to get involved with gold selling Krugerrands. And the angel she met was a guy from McDonald's, and it's almost like a network marketing deal.
Okay.
Well, she had got in with this guy, and then he got her to be able to sell these Krugerrands to all his friends who were franchise owners at McDonald's.
Pyramid.
She's a multimillionaire in this thing. She had made, according to her, she was a very wealthy person. It had nothing to do with anything. What happened? The point of what happened was that she kept me in that seat long enough. Instead of me rushing back to my room, going laying down and eating my Doritos, I sat with her long enough for Michael Holligan to come in.
Right on.
Michael Holligan was also coming to that show, and I had no idea who he was, but he was big in Texas. He had his own little show, and he was on Discovery Channel, and it was just me and him now in the theater. That doesn't happen. It's like, you're lucky if you want to meet the guy that's running the show, the Sopranos, and you're like, holy shit, I would love to meet this director.
Right.
Holligan just was looking at the stage, and then I'm looking at him, and he's like, what's going on? I go, I'm doing a show tonight. He goes, oh, you're the comedian. He goes, hey, I'm going to stay for your show because I'm looking for a writer.
Nice.
He comes to the show. I do pretty good. He hires me. I'm doing writing for 2 years. And then 2 years on his show as the funny tool guy, as the adventures in home building guy. Then I travel NASCAR with him all year, about 30 races with NASCAR. Then I tour with he's a partner, I think, with Cuban on like the basketball or the baseball. So we did these baseball and basketball events with the cheerleaders, trying to pitch his business, Holligan's business, because I sat with
that
this
interaction,
lady,
just because of the
woman,
interaction,
because I calmed myself down, took the time, and that was 97. I'm 20, I'm 34 years old at that time.
Right.
But prior to 34, I had a hard time. I wasn't successful. I wasn't going anywhere. I was reading a lot of motivational to try to get myself out of my funk, a lot of biographies of people. I just needed something that I knew I needed to change.
Right.
In 97, because of pure just will and need, things started happening. I met Tracy in 1997. I got the construction comedy school in 1997. I worked for Wilson Art for almost 15 years, like I did with you guys.
Fantastic.
I worked with Holligan for
It's serendipity,
6
man.
years.
I mean, that's really what that is, where you put it out in the universe, and you just gave your few moments to this
and it's
lady.
you calming down.
Yeah.
Instead of being, like you said, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Just
Should
when
be
you
a
go
mantra.
meet anybody you meet, right? I don't care who it is. I sat with the homeless guy in Baltimore for almost 2 hours one day. I didn't want to be with my wife. She's shopping, and I saw this guy. I just sat next to him and go, what's going on? What's going on?
There's always gonna
How
be a
are you on
story,
this
too,
train?" And
man.
this guy, he had a little place, and then he got kicked out, and he's able to live on the street. And I mean, he absolutely coherent.
You know, the lady that you mentioned that was cleaning, that was a millionaire. Now, those are Uber drivers at this point. That's what you get every time you get an Uber or a Lyft. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
These guys are going to tell you their story, I'm just doing this because I'm, And some of those are going to make it too, right? Some of those guys that tell you the story, like, I'm just doing this because I got this other gig going, and then before you know it, they're gonna be a multimillionaire.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy that, even in construction school, right? I wasn't sure I wanted to do construction school. I'm a comedian. This is a 14-hour gig. I was doing 45-minute shows, and someone said, "Could you do?" And I needed the money.
Do you have a 14-hour set?
Yeah, 14 hours. Right? And that first show in West Palm Beach, I had 200 people.
But remember, it feels like 12.
It feels like a mere 12. But I feel like after that first class, which I was going to quit after that, I was going to go back to the management company, the engineering firm that hired me, and say, I can't do this. And I stayed because of need. I feel like that's something I should know even when I don't need, right? Even when you're not in need, stay.
Yeah.
Just do this. Say yes and go through with it. Because what happens is so true. Tony Robbins said it 30 years ago. You're in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You don't want to pry your ass off that couch because you're sitting pretty. You're fat and happy. Don't be fat and happy. This is what all this Wim Hof stuff is. The ice baths.
Right.
The fasting is about.
Not healthy for you, apparently, the ice baths. Apparently. You hear one thing one day and the next thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know the self-imposed discipline is healthy if you
sure.
do it in a way that it's not detrimental to you. Like, forcing yourself. I forced myself to live in New York City for a year. That's not easy. That was pure self-imposed discipline.
Yeah, no question about it.
But I knew there could be a benefit from it, which I still haven't got. But I know there's going to be something.
It's interesting. Go back to Vegas real quick. So I do this gig in Vegas, and I meet some wonderful people. My best friend on the planet is the guy his name is Eric. It goes by DJ Vice. And so I'm going to this club called Body English, and I've got my friend Angela, who's the host, the girl that kind of takes care of my table there, and I see her once or twice a month. And I go in one night, and she goes, "Hey, I like this DJ. Would you go in and talk to him and tell me if he's a nice guy?" I said, "Sure." So I grab a bottle of Platinum Patron, which at the time was good. Today, not so much. I haven't drank in 7 years.
Again, I'm out of the loop
I haven't
on
drank in
this.
7 years. This is just to circle back to this. So I
Platinum
grab a bottle.
Patron, okay.
By the way, it's a big one, right? And I walk in a DJ booth, and he looks at me, and he looks at the bottle of Patron. He goes, "Let's do shots," right? And we finish this bottle together, and I walk out over to Angela where my table is, and I go, "If you don't date this guy, I will."
You like him that much?
And so fast forward, they get married in the Philippines.
Wow.
The two of them are some of my closest friends. We've traveled the world together. When I say we traveled the world together, we went to Kilimanjaro.
Holy
We've
smokes.
been to Peru. We've been to Japan. We've been to. When I celebrated my 50th, it was 50 parties and 50.
Holy
during that year.
smokes.
But Eric's one of my best friends on the planet, and I tell you that because he taught me how the idea.
This is
of connection-
DJ Vice?
DJ Vice. And still relevant to this day. This kid's 47 years old.
Yeah.
And still playing all over the country and all over the world.
Absolutely.
And he's but
Eminem's 52, I think.
Yeah. When I spend time with him, and when I first met him, it was like he's sitting there and he's listening. Like he's genuinely connected.
The first time you met him.
The first time I met him. To this day, it's the
You
same.
sure it wasn't the Patron?
We had some great stories, by the way. But and people would come up to him after his gigs, and they would say, "Oh, you remember I saw you in Kansas City?" "Oh yeah, I remember that." Because when he has a conversation with somebody, he's having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I tell you that because it's a genuine connection that he makes. It's one of my favorite words, being genuine. And so he actually is the one that kind of taught me how important it was to give your time to somebody, because it's a moment to you that might mean nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a moment to somebody else that
And
might
don't
mean
cost you anything.
the world. And it doesn't cost you anything, right? And so, and Vegas became the catalyst for half a dozen of my best friends to this day. And I don't go to Vegas.
So you have all these friends, right? You consistently call them
all the time.
just make sure that you're in touch with everybody.
All the time.
It's almost like a business.
For me, it was especially during COVID, because these DJs weren't working, and these are buddies of mine, right? And I'm picking up the phone and go, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And one guy named Jersey, he's the funniest character out of Chicago. I go, "Jersey, how you doing, bro? Don't tell me you're fine. Like, I want to know how you're doing. How's your brain?" Mental health is kind of one of those things that guys don't like to talk about. It's because I think I heard a little bit about that. It's not for me, man, because I've had 2 people commit suicide that I knew closely, that had all I'd done was checked on them more frequently, maybe, you never know, right? Maybe
you don't know.
They would have had it, right? But so it became such an important part of my friendships. Like, I want to know how you're doing. I want to check in with you, right? And they do the same for me.
And you can't be afraid of people.
No.
This is what I think that people go through, is that you start judging people so hard that you have criteria before you talk to somebody. And that's what happens.
Be curious, not judgmental. That's the thing from the soccer thing. It slips my mind for a moment,
but traveling helps that.
Yeah, no question.
If you don't travel, I know people don't leave the county. I'm like, whoa, you've never even been out of Florida?
People think the world's pretty big, and by the way, it is. But it's not so big that you can't hop on a plane and go to Africa, right? And
you can very easily go across. We went to France, Italy, Germany, all these different places. My daughter moved over there for a little bit. And I was like, God bless, man. Why didn't we come sooner? Because I think, and it happens with everything else. I mean, you could tell me about a store, a vaping store around the corner that I shouldn't go into, and I might never go into it. Then I go and I go, oh my God, they got Batman collectibles? What the fuck? No one told me that Batman collectibles. And then the guy's sweet and nice, and he's like giving me a deal. I go, I can't judge. I'm in comedy. I can't care about anything. I can't care about your hair. I can't care about anything. Your look, anything. It don't matter. What you say, and that's the key. Even what you say should not matter.
Right.
Not in comedy.
Yeah, you got to be so much more careful these days, man.
I watch comics and I go, this guy's got a lot of balls.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care what he's saying, because he is trying to not just be funny, he's trying to stop everyone from putting those reins on him.
Right.
The
Dave
club
Chappelle
owner
mentality, right? Yeah.
Even Chappelle, I mean, he got reined in. He got reined in. I mean, he was on a roll with his show. I don't know what happened. I'm not in that circle.
Yeah.
But the show stopped. Right? And the stuff that I heard, I mean, the comics that really get crazy are far and few between anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And what happens is they start listening to each other. And I've always said this, every time I go to a scene, if I'm in Baltimore, all the Baltimore comics are starting to do a 9/11 joke all of a sudden. I'm like, why are they doing 9/11 jokes? Because someone did a 9/11 joke, and the other comic goes, oh, I should do a 9/11 joke. It's getting a laugh. And that's how it happens. Yeah. In Sarasota, for some reason, the open mic, all Jew jokes. It was all about the Jewish people. I'm like, why are you guys joking about the Jews? Have some balls. Let's do Chinese or black. Bring another race into it. If you got balls, let's hear it. Right? And I'll do those jokes on purpose just to see if the crowd reacts. And why are you, like, I'll say to them, oh, you can't handle a joke about a black guy, but it's okay to make fun of short people? What's the difference here? I go, hey, you were laughing at all my short jokes, and we make fun of redheads easily. We call them gingers, but never, ever joke about a guy who's short and has red hair. That's a leprechaun. That's a protected class. So, don't tell me you got rules, because we're going to break them. We're going to make you look like hypocrites if you don't agree. So people that's why the club is so important. That's why this conversation is so important with people, is that people go, oh yeah, why did I get so tense about this? Why am I saying that I'm being disrespected? Why do I have to feel, all that stuff that's happening is seeping into the public.
Yeah.
And then now we're all having a problem together again, because no one can let anyone just do what they want. Just do what you want.
Yeah.
I'm
with you.
I'm sorry if I bumped into you. I'm sorry if I misgendered you. I'm sorry if I made fun of you, but I bet you there's some shit you do I don't like
either. That's your job, though, man. The job is to make fun of them. Right?
That's what we do. I go, you should hear what I say about my mother and my wife.
It's the best. So listen, I just to circle back, you started talking about traveling, and it's the one thing that I make sure that I save my money for. You know, a little bit about a lifestyle. You know, I don't work as much as I used to. My son runs a company. He's smarter than I ever were. His partner, Sam, is fantastic. We got a good group of young guys that will take this company. We celebrated 50 years last year.
What are you guys doing now? Let's just tell the listeners what you're doing. You're building
Yeah,
timeshares,
so,
condominiums.
you know, WPC became known as a multi-unit builder. And what that meant is we were doing timeshare because we live in Orlando, and, you know, there's timeshare everywhere, and then hotels and senior living because there's old people everywhere, and student housing. And so anything that had more than one unit, we got really good at. And so we became known as this builder. And, you know, lately, over the last 5 years, was a lot of multifamily rental property everywhere. And not as much today as we'd like. But, you know, so we do a lot of hospitality renovation. So a lot of the timeshares that we built over the last 40 years, 45 years, from 1980 to now.
Now what happens to those?
We're doing renovation on them. We're going in and doing, you know,
big of a
cleaning them up.
renovation? Do you take it
We have projects that are $10 million. We have projects that are $500,000.
structurally? They're okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, these are buildings that they're hanging in there. You know, the timeshare world now is they don't build new product. They buy product from other companies. And so Hilton Grand Vacations, an example, will go and buy a brand, and then they have to rebrand it to Hilton. And so we've got a team of guys that travel all over the eastern United States just rebranding.
It's interesting because I said prior to the podcast, the building that went down in Miami area, Surfside, right? It collapsed, pancake collapse. And that building, I believe, had 120 some units in it. The new building is going to have 76, right? The cost of those buildings, the cost of those units back when those people bought them, I think that building is over 50 years old, in the 100 and some thousands maybe. The new units, I forgot what they were. I believe just the land alone per unit was going to cost everybody somewhere in the stupid number of like $3 million. It's going to be like a $5-7 million condo, something pretty high.
The new ones.
The new ones that are going to be put in place where the old ones were. Now you have 120 some people who used to live there. They got to find somewhere else to go. So my thought, because it's a new law in the state of Florida, that this new engineering, this milestone inspection has to be done. All these buildings have to be inspected. And if the engineering firm finds out that this building is what's the word for it? Not salvageable, that it has to be demolished because it's happening. The assessments are so high that it gets to that point too where people are like, I can't pay a $300,000 assessment. And this is a lot of it on the coast, on the East Coast right now, that they're just abandoning the apartment, the condo, whatever it is. And then these developers are coming in and knocking it down. It seems to me as if it's a gentrification of the coast in a odd way that's not being mentioned through the demolition of these 50-year-old structures. You know, usually we see gentrification when you come into a neighborhood that's occupied by poor people, and that property becomes more valuable because the surrounding area is built out, and now we need to build, you know, more units. It seems like that's happening down in this Miami area. Now, these are older people. I wouldn't say poor people, but it's similar. It's like it's like an age gentrification instead of poverty. It's like the money is not the reason. It's these aging people who've been there, by the way, they enjoy their 50 years down there.
Right.
You know, and we can't expect these buildings all to stand perfectly past a certain amount of time, especially with the saltwater intrusion and everything that's happening. Is it a form, do you think, without telling people, you know, does it look like it's a planned gentrification of the area to eliminate this older population and bring in the new money, new units?
My
and where do these people
editorial
go?
comment of that is that it certainly could seem like a business model where developers can take advantage of certain situations. It would be my hope that nobody's putting people at risk as a result of that. You know, that building, I was at a condominium down in West Palm Beach. I was asked to go take a look at it to do some renovation work on their pool deck. They wanted to do a $10 million pool deck renovation, massive. It was going to be gorgeous. And as I was looking around, I was noticing a lot of exposed rebar, like some, you know, they call it scaling and other things where, you know, the concrete is contracted and expanded and pops off. And now this rebar is exploding. I go, it's rusted. And, you know, I didn't investigate and dig too deep into that project in Miami, but the assumption that I think people made is that some of that structural integrity of that building was damaged because there was this exposed steel that rusted, and ultimately over enough time just created, the integrity issue. But to your point, are people looking at it and trying to take advantage of it? If it came out, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Because developers, you can't create land, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, I guess you could if you're in Dubai and you want to build an island that looks like a pond.
Yeah, that's weird.
But in Florida, especially, I mean, you're building this product, and we
got to that point, Jeff, where there's got to be a limit, where you have to say you can't build anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, Florida's a different game because you have this. I always, when I show it, it looks like a biscotti on my slides. You know how a biscotti doesn't have the chocolate except on the edges?
Right.
The chocolate part of Florida, the edging all the way, the entire coast of the biscotti of Florida, that's where everyone wants to live, in that chocolate part. But that interior, that cakey part, Arcadia, Okeechobee, Frostproof, Indian Town, all the little towns that nobody really wants to live in. A lot of area to build.
Yeah.
A lot of area to build. We can't tax the resource as much as we'd like to. We'd love to put up building after building after building.
Right.
That's been done now. We have done this. California is even probably worse, in fact, because of the water issue. I mean, there's a lot of people in California, they talk about being environmentalists, yet they don't have enough resources for all the people they keep bringing in.
Right.
And now there's problems with water, especially with fires and drinking water and the rest of it. So when you overtax the resources, you have to think of another way, or you have to say, like Europe, we're not building anymore.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, right?
If you don't do that, what happens to the economy?
Yeah, I politics aside, because I don't get into that conversation very often. Florida's an interesting state with great opportunity and a lot of problems, right? And the development side of this is hard for me to not want to see because I'm a builder.
Right, of course.
Right? And now Jeffrey and I are developers. We do commercial development.
But
so,
is that before you move on, is that not in my backyard for you?
No, I don't have a problem with it.
You're okay with being surrounded by
the challenge is we want to do some things, some affordable housing and some other things. And it everybody wants to talk about it until it's too close to you, right? That not in my backyard. What do they call it? Not NOBO or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the idea of us, softening the development world a little bit, I don't think you'll see it, especially in South Florida.
But you could see it in the middle of Florida.
Sure.
Isn't there a way, like they're doing some
because
things?
there's no oceans. There's nothing to look at except for swamps.
I look at it, I go, why would you want to live in Arcadia, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're horse people.
Yeah.
It's a whole different game, like Ocala. Horse people.
Gainesville, that's a beautiful part of the world.
I mean, there's people who want to live around those certain things, not because of the ocean. I can tell you that most people in Sarasota that I know don't go to the beach.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah.
It's almost like this, like me with looking at the stereotype of what Vegas is.
Yeah.
What's Florida? I mean, when I lived in Ohio, Florida was Anita Bryant and oranges and the ocean and Disney, and that was it. I know nothing else.
Right.
Now, to me, Florida is a different game. It's beautiful.
Miami's a different world altogether, right? I mean, you can carve that out, and no other part of Florida is like Miami.
No, I know.
Right? People talk about Miami all over the world.
Yeah.
They don't talk about Arcadia all over the world.
No.
Right? And so it's so
But the
culturally
Villages
diverse.
has done what I guess I'm saying. The Villages has decided people just want to live in Florida.
Yeah.
So they're just expanding their kingdom.
I think it's brothers. I don't know the entire story that owned all that property and still control a lot of it.
I did
when they
CE for
developed
them
that.
privately, and they brought me up a long time ago. And I don't know if I met the actual owners, but I met some of the top.
Some good old boys.
The good boys.
Some good old boys
that were.
Now, if you get in south of Miami, in the Keys, entry to the Keys, right, where the tomato farmers are, I don't know if you know the two brothers
Homestead?
who were down there. Homestead.
Are they doing?
I built the Best Western in Homestead.
Okay.
We call it Keys Gate, right to the entrance.
Yeah.
And the guys that owned this property were two brothers that were tomato farmers, and that's what they did. They drove tractors, and then they wanted to build a hotel, and so they hired us to come down and build a hotel. But the first time I ever met with him, I go to the farm, and he'll be here in a second. He's driving his tractor in, right, and he pulls off, and he's had worked all day long, and he goes, all right, let's talk about it, right, And it was him and his brother that wanted to build this hotel. And but development's interesting. It's
well, that's what I see is that there's opportunity.
There's opportunities. There's opportunities to build different product types, right? There's only so many people, and Miami will continue to sell the $20 and $50 million condominiums on the water.
Yeah.
But the market for something different,
like the
Margaritavilles, or even something different like a tiny home, right? A small home, or something that's more affordable. Whatever the right words are.
My son was on a project called Fat City. I don't know if you heard that. That was in Lauderdale when he was with Styles. It was just a massive retail, residential, just stretched out over that South Florida area by the Lauderdale, Los Olas area, somewhere over there. But the problem was, these people in Little Havana, right, near Miami, they're living on property that's 10 feet above sea level.
Yeah. So at least today it is. Tomorrow it's 9 feet.
But I'm saying, but the problem is that now the property values are rising based on how high you are in the state.
Yeah.
So all these millionaires started buying
pushing north
in this Little Havana. If you look at the numbers of median home prices, skyrocketing.
Interesting.
And now those people who are living in Little Havana, did I say Little Havana? Is that the area? Yeah. Little Haiti.
Okay.
Right? I don't know. It has an H. One of these areas, the whole point is they're booting everybody out who's living there because of the property values.
Yeah.
So it's going to start seeping inward, right? And there's going to be other advantages like a Villages, like a Margaritaville, where people go, I just want to be in the weather, golfing, in the heat, by a pool in Florida.
You've seen these massive ponds. It slips my mind for a second. They create these lakes that are crystal clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have one at Evermore Resort where they basically,
like in Disney, like
they just built this, and it's a really interesting business, and I'm surprised it slips in my mind for the minute, but that's why I'm 62 and can't remember all my shit that I remember. But it's crystal clear water. I mean, it's a massive,
it's a man-made lake,
50-acre lake that's filtered.
Beautiful.
And so, you
no
see
alligators.
This company, no alligators. Maybe they probably get in there. But you can go create land like that, right? You can go build these very expensive water features.
That's a
the
great
company's
idea.
pretty interesting. As I understand it, I think they're out of South America, and they have a fee for the project, but they also get a part of the real estate deal because they're creating land values. It's an interesting business. But
I can't imagine because all this stuff eventually gets run by the homeowners.
Yeah, the association.
Could you imagine? Right? The builder lets go. The HOA gets it. Somebody else is running it 40 years from now. What does that lake look like in 50 years?
Yeah. It's expensive to maintain, too.
Right.
But,
like all the fountains at those Miami condos. That's why all their fees are so ridiculous. The magnificent entryways, the fountains, the beautiful balconies, all stuff that really is not part of where you live. It's just the aesthetic is what's driving the cost of these places out through the roof.
Yeah.
And they're shutting this shit down. Just like in my little HOA. We got little brick detail at the end of the driveway. Can't have that no more because they're going to be doing the roads. They're taking all the. I go, why don't you put the bricks back?
Right.
Well, it costs more. I go, well, this is why I moved in here for all the detail.
A little bit of
place.
detail. They're going to take it
what
away.
you're doing is you're stripping every little thing that was so cool here because it has to be maintained. It's a shame.
Man.
I wish I could tap your brain more because, believe me, we barely
good. We never really got to this.
We
never got. Yeah, listen, I know it's good stuff, and thanks for including me. It's so when you reached out, it was like, of course I'm going to come.
I'm bringing you back.
First of all, I haven't
part
seen
two.
you long enough, and we could. I'd love to tell you about what the rest of the world. I told you I had a 40-year plan, right? I'm 60.
I know. What is this now? Good.
You
Briefly
want to take a couple seconds? I'll
just
tell
a
you what
couple
it is. So
seconds.
when I was moving, I was 59. I was working towards 60. I wanted to. I started to think about mortality. I've got 2 grandkids, and it was like, okay. My dad died at 77. My brother died at 70. Nobody in my family on the male side lived past 77.
Yeah.
And I go, 17 summers isn't enough, man. I don't want to. 77 is just not it.
Right.
And so I started deep diving on longevity, and I read a book called Outlive, and did functional medicine doctors, did all this stuff. But I created a plan of the 10 things I wanted to do when I was 100. Right. These are 10 things I want to get on the ground and get back up by myself. Simple stuff. I want to walk a mile in 20 minutes. I want to lift up my great-grandkids. So how do I do that at 100 and not freak everybody out around me, right? And I put this list together, and then I went out and started looking for people to help me do this. And the first person I went to was a trainer. I actually interviewed 3 trainers. The one trainer that got it, Like, okay, so you want to work on agility and you want to work on balance and you want to work on core strength and you're not trying to look a certain way.
Right.
I go, I already look good. I don't need, that. I just want to, like, these are the 10 things I want to do. Can you help me do this? He goes, sure. I go, how old are you? 45. I go, great. When we're done with this, you're 85 and we're good. And then, so he's like my coach. And then I have an offensive coordinator, I call him. He's my functional medicine doctor. I got a defensive coordinator, which is my general practitioner. My special teams coach is my cardiovascular doctor. And so I have this group, and all of them know each other, and they all actually have worked together or worked out together before. And these 4 guys are the ones that are going to get me to do these 10 things when I'm 100. And so, and it's such a cool thing to have.
You got these guys young enough now.
What's that?
They'll be around.
They'll all be around. Yeah, they're all young.
You got to get the doctors that are young enough to be around.
Exactly right.
For Team Jeff.
All I cared but that they understood what I was trying to accomplish. Now, will I get there? Who the fuck knows? But
It doesn't matter. You're right.
will I live a certain way to try? Eat right. I don't drink. I haven't done that in 7 years, which is completely different than the days in my Las Vegas that we
stopped
talked about.
drinking.
Stop drinking. Yeah. Have some sake from time to time because I don't think it's real alcohol. But
Okay.
But and if you eat raw fish and drink sake, I think they offset each other. I don't know.
I don't know.
I
have
read
no
it
idea.
somewhere. I don't know if
I'm
it's
pretty
true.
sure if you do that with bourbon and Doritos, it's the same thing.
So anyways, that's the thing, man. And, I get to live a wonderful life. And I heard a comedian, by the way, and I wish I could remember his name again, a memory issue. He goes, what do you want to accomplish? He goes, I want to enjoy the passage of time. And those simple words, like, I want to enjoy the passage of time, which means no matter what I'm doing. And then I'll give you one more thing and I'll send it to you. I came up with this thing. I was sitting in San Diego on the top of a hotel, writing these words down. I had spent time with this one guy. Darren was his name. And we sat together for like 5 hours. And neither one of us recognized that we sat together for 5 hours. It just happened.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it. We got to know each other. It's the first time I really got to spend time with him. And I go, I got to write that down. That's pretty cool. And so I wrote this little thing that says, my quest is to extend the moments that I spend with people where I don't count the passage of time. It's when time stands still.
Right.
And so you and I have been together here for an hour and 32 minutes and 33 seconds.
Really?
But it doesn't feel like that, right? We've known each other for a long time.
doesn't.
We just sit here, we hang out. And that's a moment that I would love to have and remember over and over again. People say you're only going to remember moments in your life. I just want to extend them. And so that's what I'm looking to do, man.
It's a perfect scenario. I think it's the smartest thing when people start realizing the value of time. It takes some people a lot longer. And I hope that you do this. I hope that you continue to, pursue this, because every time I talk to you, if I feel like I've learned something. We had dinner 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and after
about 6 years ago,
it was. I say every time I talk to Jeff or Tracy or anybody who's active and wants to broaden, not just their mind, their intelligence, their horizon, they're interested in life.
Yeah.
You're interested, because there's so many people who are not that interested. And, Adam Carolla talks about this all the time. He's an atheist and he doesn't believe in God. So he says that his time is more valuable because he knows there's nothing.
Interesting. I might have to remember that.
Right.
Listen, man, I mean, it is short. I mean, we've known each other for over 25 years. It's a blink of an eye.
It is.
And it just happens so quickly. Just try to enjoy it as much as you can and engage and be genuine and listen and all the other things you're supposed to do is to be a good human. And I'm a Buddhist. I've been a Buddhist since I was 45 years old. So for that period of time, my idea is just being kind. And if I can figure out a way to build my karma bank, I'll drain it from time to time, but it's cool, man. And I enjoyed it. So thanks for giving me.
Absolutely. I'm glad you drove all the way from Orlando for this.
I'm coming back tomorrow for lunch.
You got to. Keep coming. All right, man. I'll see you.
Thank you.